Hello, and welcome to Wellness Wednesday with 3W. Wellness Wednesday is sponsored by 3W Medical for Women, a nonprofit medical clinic offering free of charge or low-cost reproductive health services to women in the Seattle area, regardless of income or insurance status. 3W does not profit off of the reproductive health choices women make. The information shared in this podcast is the opinion of the speaker or speakers. Medical information is not intended as individual medical consultation, but for general education only. Always consult your own health professional for personalized advice regarding medical decisions. And if you're in the Seattle area, consider making an appointment to consult with us. I'm Alejandra, Content Marketing Specialist at 3W Medical for Women, and the host of today's podcast. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Wellness Wednesday with 3W here. I'm your guest host, Alejandra, and I'm here with my lovely coworkers, Lauren and Theresa.
Hi.
Hello. Welcome, ladies. Well, this is kind of a fun episode, and we're here to talk about healthy relationships. All three of us are in different stages of relationships and wanting to share our perspectives, as well as some tips from Amherst College and just some fun, open conversation. And so, ladies, let's take it away and dive into some of these cool
How about
tips.
we say what stage we're all in?
Of course.
Yes.
That's a great idea.
Go ahead. You can start, Alejandra.
Sure. I'm currently dating for a little bit over a year.
Yeah.
And it's been a fun experience.
Yes.
Love that for you.
Thanks.
Teresa?
I'm single. I have been single my whole life, essentially. Hopefully some of you can relate. But
No, we're not laughing about that. She just said it funny. My whole life. No giggles for singles. We love singles.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
No giggles for singles. But yeah, I'm pretty content with like where I'm at, not really planning on going out and dating. So happy to share my experience with approaching other relationships, maybe outside of dating as a single person. So
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Platonic relationships.
Yeah.
Well, those are need to be healthy too.
Exactly.
So it's Lauren here. I am married. I got married in September of 2021. So I've been married 9 months. But I also dated my husband for 7.5 years. Yesterday was our 8-year dating
That's
anniversary.
right.
I always still celebrate because I feel like it's like, we've only been married 9 months. I want the credit for the 8 years I put in.
Totally.
So we've been together for 8 years. So I feel like I have a lot of perspectives on dating, healthy relationships. I've been through a lot of stages within one person of a relationship. So I love talking about healthy relationships. I'm excited to dive in.
Totally.
Well, great.
Excited.
Well, thanks for sharing that. Kind of going into some points, what are 3 things people often need to actively work on to maintain a healthy relationship? What would you guys say? Some really key points.
I'll start.
Yeah, you go.
Where do I begin? So much. I think a first thing is I like to just make the ground of relationships take work, but they shouldn't be so hard where it takes away from the joy. I think a lot we hear about is relationships are so hard. Marriage is so hard. Dating is so hard. Yes, it is hard to mesh 2 lives together and mesh 2 people who had different upbringings and different backgrounds and different perspectives on things. That's hard. But at the end of the day, it shouldn't be as hard, that hard, then maybe it's not the right relationship.
Yeah.
So I think at the first point, working on yourselves, working on together, building trust, and working on expectations for each other is very important. But I like to say that if it's too hard, it might be the person. Hot take.
Whoa.
Hot take.
Whoa,
And I
hot
think
takes.
some people don't think that. I think I don't think that's always popular. People think well, it can be hard. And I think there's seasons of hardness. I'm not saying that my relationship has always been perfect. I had a lot of times where I was like, what are we doing here? Are we supposed to be together when we were dating?
Mm-hmm.
And we had to reevaluate and we had to make a choice that we were going to keep moving forward even though things were hard.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think it should stay hard.
Right.
Those periods of growth are important. Those periods of growth are necessary because those hardships bring you to the next season. But if you stay hard, it might not be the right relationship.
That's a very good
that's a
point.
And
good
I think we, in our culture, have been it takes work. Things are hard. Yes, things are hard, but you should experience joy with your partners. You should experience levity. It should make things lighter. It should make things easier. If you think about your life and if you are looking back at your relationship or looking back at your time together, and if it's more negative than positive, that's telling you something.
Yeah.
If your life is getting harder and not easier, that's telling you something.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I had points of Josh and I's relationship where we almost broke up a few times from hard seasons we were in. And I would say, yeah, things were hard, but making that choice to go forward was really fruitful. So I'm not negating that, like, it's not important to go through hard things, and things can be hard sometimes, but I don't think it should stay hard.
Yeah,
So that's a big thing for me.
You like constantly trudging through this relationship. Yes. Like if this person is good for you, then they're ultimately making your life more fulfilling and more joyful, rather than, oh, this is something I have to constantly push through every single day.
And I think we see that a lot with friendships, because you can be friends with someone for so long and nothing actually happens. Like there's no big dramatic fight, but it's just a hard relationship. And you're like, maybe we're growing in different ways.
Yeah.
So that I think we talk about this a lot in romantic relationships, because you live with that person a lot of times if you're married or, dating, and you're always with them. But with friendships too, I've had friendships where I'm like, this isn't easy anymore. And this isn't fun.
Yeah.
And as adults, I don't have time for drama. I don't have time like high school drama where you're like, is she mad at me? Like, no. And I don't think you need to throw out your relationship and be like, you're too hard, I'm not being friends with you. But reevaluate. Maybe I want to distance myself from this person. Or maybe I just bring it up that it's like, this is not easy right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of tapping off of what you said in the sense of those, highs and lows of those tough seasons and happy times too. The essence of that is communication, I feel.
Totally.
Because how else are you gonna work through those like ups and downs?
Oh yeah.
And sometimes just even communicating in itself is difficult, right?
Yes.
For
there's
some
different
of us,
communication styles.
Exactly. Like some people are more upfront with the way they communicate. Some people are a little bit more, let's go walk around for a little while.
Well,
cool
and
down maybe.
So much like Josh and I'm an external processor. So I process by talking it through. And Josh is an internal processor. So you should see our fights or like our disagreements. I'm talking, and he's literally staring at a wall. And I'm like, are you even listening to me? Are you even listening to me? And he's processing it. Yeah. And then if I just stop talking, I'll get an answer. But I just never stop talking. So he looks at the wall, and I think he's like, but if I never realized that was his processing style, I would be like, you don't care about me.
Right.
Bye.
Just rather than you communicated that, and rather than just assume, oh, he's not listening.
Yeah, because if it was my brain, I would be speaking, you know? And he just has like a longer processing time than me. I'm like, I get the information, I reprocess it, it's out in the world, Well,
and that's probably a huge tip for our listeners is like, think about the style that you process things, right?
Because your communication style, your love languages are huge, because you can't process you can't put yourself in someone else's shoes if you're not actually going to put yourself in other people's shoes.
Exactly.
Like if you're not actually going to think like, Theresa's different than me. Like if Theresa and I are friends, if I thought of all of what I said to Theresa in my lens, I would never know what Theresa actually was feeling. Because me and Theresa are very different. Theresa's introverted. She processes things slow. And so I was like, wow, Theresa just isn't showing me she cares because she's not talking to me and she wants to be alone. And if I did that, people would be like, you're mad, Lauren. So.
Well, and again, like we're not supposed to be the same, right?
Right.
I think there's that expectation maybe of like, oh, well, things should go smoothly, and if we like the same music and we like the same hobbies, like that's a check in the box. Theresa, do you have any thoughts on that?
No, that's really interesting that you brought that up, Lauren, about like how relationships shouldn't be like a constant like really
like a sludge.
I think just because I have had a lot of experiences with not the best, I guess, friendships and stuff. And so I think what I'm learning now through like therapy is like putting down boundaries. And like it for me, it's like very much like working really hard to put down boundaries for myself and stuff. Right. And so I feel like something that is important in maintaining any sort of healthy relationship is, as you said, Alejandra, communication. And with that comes setting down boundaries for yourself, which is so hard for me.
Well, and it's hard, especially when you've set different boundaries and then going back, because boundaries are easy if you make a new friendship and you're like, hey, this is how I roll, right? But when you've established something and then you're like, I
want to change that,
I never felt comfortable with that and I'm actually going to go back, it's a lot more uncomfortable and a lot more obvious because an expectation was set and then you're changing the expectation
Exactly.
versus starting out that way.
Yeah.
So with new relationships, I'm sure it's going to be easier for you to be like, hey, like,
here's my needs.
These are my needs. This is what I need for me to feel like this is like a beneficial relationship versus somebody you've been friends with for years. And it's like, I'm actually gonna feel like we need to change this up, and then it's like, whoa, why? You know?
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Yeah,
that's a really
the
good point,
person's kind of like, what? I thought it was okay this whole time, and you're like,
Yeah.
no.
Well, and I think it's different because I don't think about boundaries really. Like, because I don't know why, but like I probably can just.
It's
I'm an
a part of
extrovert.
you.
I get my energy from others. I
Yeah.
don't need time to recharge.
Right.
Josh has had to set boundaries with me because he's like, you're smothering me, lady. Like, I need a minute because he's more introverted. Again, going back to the differences of humans, you know, we are meant to be in relationship with each other, but we're also meant to understand the differences of others.
Yeah.
Because I think from a different perspective, I would think that if my friend came to me and said certain boundaries in a different maturity level, I would probably be like, wow, I am too much and I'm this and I'm that. And I'm not saying that in a sense of you shouldn't set those boundaries. I think boundaries are beautiful, but I see how other people need to be receptive of those boundaries.
Yeah.
Because some people don't need boundaries, like me. I'm like, love me, see me, hug me, do whatever. I'll take it all. But that's not everyone. And I don't think just because I don't need those boundaries doesn't mean they're not beautiful. And really, I do need those boundaries because I should have boundaries with Josh and not be like, I want to be with each other all the time. And when we're home, you can't do your own thing. We need to be together, right? Like, let's say I said that. I could have maybe in my life said that. But me getting those boundaries from Josh made our relationship better and made me healthier and made me think of others more and made me, but even though I wouldn't do those myself.
Right.
So boundaries are very important. Very important.
It taps into this, one of the tips from Amherst College. It says, keep expectations realistic.
Yes.
I think that is exactly what we're talking about, right?
Totally.
It's acknowledging the fact that, yes, people have boundaries. And I think one of the biggest things too is like not taking it personally.
No,
right?
It's not about you.
It's because like what happens when that, you know, like a huge explosion can happen.
Oh, yeah.
Huge conversation, huge conflicts. And so it's like looking to the other person as, you know what, I care about you and I want the best for you. And I also need to look at myself and maybe something that I need to fix or something that I need to work through, you know, because what happens when you bring two people together in a relationship, you guys have past experiences, past maybe hurts, you know, situations that, you know, you went through. So I think that's so important to know that too, which kind of falls into another point from Amherst College where it says, take care of yourself. Right. So we had a podcast from like, I think 2 years ago talking about self-care. Oh, yeah, I did that one. Right. Self-care. Lauren was on that podcast, did a great job. It's so important because what happens? So kind of like what Lauren, you were saying, Josh needs some space, right? To recharge. Yeah. You thrive off of people. Yeah. So like, okay, knowing that about yourself, right? So like whoever's listening, think about like what makes you recharge and what makes you thrive. Tap into those things that help you recharge. Yeah. That will help you be better in your relationship. Right?
Totally. Well, and going into that, I like this question that I wanted to ask. And I think about this a lot starting dating someone when I was 16 of when you're in a relationship with someone, how do you maintain your individual personhood? Yes. And what is the line between independence and dependence? That's like huge. Yeah. And it's a fine line. And I'm going to answer my own question real quick. I'm going to just intro it. So I started dating Josh when I was 16. He was a little older than me. And if I wasn't dating him, I would be dependent on him because he's a good boundary setter and he's good at being like, I am me, you are her, you. We are not one. We are one in marriage, but like we are not one. We are two people coming together. We're not one blob of a human, right? Yeah. But my personality is like not like that. I would just be like, I love you. I want to be with you. I'll do whatever. Like I'm being at 16. Hello, I could have easily been just wrapped into that and not had my own self, right? And so I think it really is hard to do that. But if you know that by yourself, that you are maybe a people pleaser, maybe you're someone who just easily likes to be with other people and gets just like has a lot of feelings like I do. Finding someone that is like Theresa maybe who can set boundaries, but really like, because Josh set boundaries of like, you're in high school. You need to still develop yourself as a human. We are not one person. We are our own individuals. I have my own hobbies. You have your friends. We have different friend groups. We have similar friends, but like we have our own individual friends that we hang out with on our own. Was so huge. Because if I had someone not like Josh, more like me probably, I would be in a different spot. And Josh and I probably wouldn't be together still, because it would be a toxic relationship if I became fully engulfed with this person at 16 and never found my own self.
Right. That's really important. Point. Yeah. Your own identity.
Yeah. Well, especially in younger, long-term relationships when you start at a young age.
Oh, yeah.
I would imagine. Yeah.
And I think that can be with friendships too. When you're with a friend for a long time, like I have a best friend since we were 4, right? I could easily be dependent on her because it's like, well, we've always been together. It's easy. It's comfortable.
Yeah. And I mean, even thinking for like single people, I mean, even for myself, of like, if I were to start dating, you know, during this time that I am not in a relationship, building more of that security within my own self. Because I know that I'm very much a person who is very affected by other people's opinions of me or like just always doing what other people want me to do.
Yeah.
Gaining more confidence in myself and finding the security within myself to know who I am, what I want, what are my boundaries, so that if I were to get into a relationship, or even just in my friendships or other platonic relationships as well, that I'm not constantly dependent on them or I'm not constantly, you know, bending my back over for other people and stuff. I can recognize, you know, where are my boundaries. And I think that's just something that everyone should do, is like whatever stage you're in or whatever perspective you hold. Alejandra, like you said, from the Amherst College article, taking care of yourself is a really important part of any relationship.
Yeah. I can say from the dating perspective and coming into it, this is not for everyone, or it doesn't happen to everyone, but cultural differences too. Those can be very either easy or hard. You know, in my case, we're both Hispanic, so it's not as difficult, but there are some differences. But kind of tapping into what you mentioned, Lauren, about the styles of communication when something is hard to talk about. For me, I also talk a lot and I process a lot through just verbal communication. I've noticed, and again, this is a tip I took from my therapy, of just like taking a few moments to breathe. Yeah. Because I literally, sometimes I'm like, I think if I talk and keep talking, it's just going to solve itself and we're going to figure it out. And then my boyfriend's like, well, just slow down for a second. And I'm like, wow, I'm literally like,
it's like smothering for the other person.
Yeah.
So it's I've just done that so many times.
Because one of the tips here, cool down before talking. Yeah. You know, just take a few moments.
In our pre-married counseling, she was like, if things are heated, how about someone goes on a walk for 5 minutes? It's not avoiding the problem. It's saying, I'm going to be in the right headspace to talk about these things.
Yeah.
Totally.
No, it's so important. And I think, you know, because there are some situations that are not going to solve itself in one conversation.
No. Yeah.
You know,
exactly.
And the kind of, I know we're kind of going in a roundabout way, but it's based on these points of, yes, that communication, that self-care, that self-awareness of you
very
know,
important.
What your capabilities are, but also your limitations, right? The limitations that you recognize, like, you know what? I need 5 minutes. I still care about you. I still love you, but I just need to take a little bit of time. That's okay. And you could be coming into a relationship with not knowing how to build boundaries. No. And through that relationship, you start to learn, you know, together. And I think that's the biggest thing is, are both of you willing to go that next step?
Yeah.
Right?
Totally.
And I think also not being afraid to say when it's hard for you to do something or say something to that person and say, you know what, I'm afraid about this. Because I've had certain situations where I have had to communicate and say, I'm afraid about this. Can we work through it? You know? And that's actually given so much more openness to my own process, his own process, and being actually feel free to say, you know what, we can actually walk through this and I don't have to be afraid about this conversation or confrontation or whatever.
Yeah, I think some people, like if they have some sort of worry or like there's a hardship, can be scared to bring it up because they think like, oh, this is gonna like ruin everything or it's gonna make our friendship or relationship more complicated if I bring it up, so might as well not. No, like
it deepens intimacy.
It does.
And
trust exactly,
which is huge.
And it opens up the conversation for like, oh, this is something that you're going through or you're having a hard time with, let's talk about it and let's work through it. And hopefully if that person is like a good partner to you or a good friend to you, they would be receptive of that. And if they're not, then maybe they're not a very good, partner or friend. So
And I think a big thing is premarital counseling, highly recommend. Even relationship counseling, recommend, because it's not, you do not need to go to therapy or counseling or whatever it is because things are going really bad.
Right.
When Josh and I got engaged, we could have easily not done it because things are great. We had been through things in the past. We were feeling good. We're not having any issues. Why would I go to therapy if I don't even have any issues? Is like common people say.
Yeah.
Right.
But it is so valuable to get tips and just like have someone neutral to talk about things with, having someone neutral to ask questions. And then it's also cool when you're in premarital counseling or in any like relationship counseling because in your relationship, you're usually asking the questions. And when you can see, especially for someone who's an internal processor like Josh, therapists would ask him questions and I would get like his answer without me having to ask it.
Wow.
Because usually I ask a question, we have a conversation, and I probably talk a lot. And then he says what he feels, but it's not like just him. And it was really cool to see like how he felt. And if I ask a question, like if some random therapist is asking a question, he's not going to say, I'm not going to answer that.
Yeah.
With me, he might be like, I don't want to talk about that right now. Or, because it's your relationship, you can like say that. But it was really cool to be with a neutral party. And then she would ask these questions and I'd be like, wow, I'm so happy to hear this about Josh.
Yeah.
And it like helped us going into things of just like laying the groundwork of like, okay, this is the expectations we have. We went through like workbooks and stuff of like, who in your family, like did your mom or dad comfort you when you were hurt or comfort you when you were sad? Who like did the cooking? Who did the cleaning? Like you literally go through your childhood and then you compare,
Wow.
Because if Josh and I got married and had kids, and we did, and we're not having kids yet, but once we have kids, and his expectation was like, the mom does this, this, and this. And I was like, my dad did that when I grew up. What are you talking about? Mom doing that.
Yeah.
That can be a conflict. Once the child's there, once you're already in it, once emotions are high, you're just had a baby, you're stressed.
Baby
If you can talk about that before you're getting married, and yes, you're going to probably have a conversation again, and things are going to, it's a fluid conversation.
Right.
But starting that early where you can get an expectation of how you want to raise your kids, how you want to set up a home, how you want to have your finances, like that is so impactful.
Yeah.
And I think you can do that. I think you can do that when you're dating if you're thinking about getting engaged, because getting engaged or getting married or moving in together is a big step.
Yeah.
Because I think when you do that, you're already tying yourself to that person. And while marriage, I think, is the final kind of sign in the document where you're married, I think there's social constructs around like you're gonna break off an engagement, like that's like people are gonna talk about you, people are gonna like be what's wrong, and that's amazing when people can take that strength, but I think it's hard.
Oh, definitely.
Even dating 8 years, it's not like Josh and I could break up and just like,
oh, it's fine,
like our lives were already intertwined. We weren't married, we weren't living together, we weren't, but even breaking up at 8 years, we weren't married, would have been hard.
Oh,
so I think taking that time to really go into therapy and analyze things is super helpful, because then once you're in the marriage, it feels a lot better to know you went through things. Once things come up in the marriage and you're fighting and you are quote unquote stuck because you're married and you've signed paperwork and you're legally binded, it feels a lot more real and smothering to be like, what did I do? And you'll get through it. And all my friends who've done this have gotten through it and had beautiful relationships, but they had moments in their marriage where they were like, what did I do? And again, that was their walk. That's what they had to deal with. I would say Josh and I don't have that as much because we had that what are we doing when we were dating still. Yeah, exactly. And I wouldn't choose one or the other, but I think for us, it was our first year's marriage has been really easy or really like joyful and great because we haven't had, when you date for 8 years, you really get to know someone. There's no surprise.
You sift through a lot.
You do. And I don't think that's everyone's reality, but really it does make things, my first year of marriage might look different than someone else's first year of marriage. And that's okay. Comparing relationships is bad. Not good.
Yeah. That's an important piece.
Don't compare.
Yeah.
Because everyone's walk is different.
Just kind of like what we say, everybody's care individually is unique and different, right?
Exactly.
On the medical side, on the emotional side, mental side, like it's all unique. Yeah.
And you could find similarities in relationships or similars like, oh yeah, that's my dynamic with my partner. And that's really cool when you can have those like times where you can talk about relationships like we are right now. Like that's how I experience things. That's me and Alejandra probably are similar in how we experience our emotions or how we process things. But at the end of the day, we aren't in the same relationship.
Right.
While you can relate to your friends and your therapist and whoever, nobody knows your relationship like you know your relationship.
Yeah.
Nobody knows what you're in. And I think that can be a blessing and a curse. Because a blessing is, oh, I have the reality of what our relationship is. But the curse side is people on the outside could see something that's not actually there.
Yeah.
People be like, wow, you have such an amazing relationship. Wow, you have such an amazing partner when he's abusing someone at home. That's a reality. So I think taking what people around you say is important. If all the people around you are saying he's a red flag, listen, or they're like she or he or whoever is you're dating or in a friendship, if everyone's saying they make you worse or they make you unhappy or they make you sad, how about you listen to that? But also, if you're in your relationship intimately and you're like, this is abuse or this feels like it's borderline abuse or I'm getting gaslit or whatever, take that too. Because just because everyone can see beautifulness on the outside doesn't mean real stuff is happening on the inside.
Yeah, like listen to yourself and like your gut feeling. And then I would listen mainly to like the perspective of your closest friends and family.
People that know you intimately, know where you're at.
Exactly.
And can see your relationship kind of uphold. Because if the person's doing that in front of others, imagine what they're doing when you're alone in 2 years or in 5 years or whatever.
Right. Yeah. And those people, like, especially people who've known you for like a long time before you were dating that person.
And then
like,
sees a change.
Yeah, sees a change. And then I think even like be wary of social media too and like posting relationships or things like that, because then, you know, if you're in a not so great relationship and you're posting all these happy pictures and then people are like, wow, you guys are such a great couple,
you're so cute,
that's just gonna probably fuel you more to want to stay in that when when a change needs to be made.
And that's actually a good point about social media. Not all relationships want to be on social media
public.
Like that's another piece, I think, in the sense of respecting each other's maybe privacy in a certain sense. Like there are some that don't like it. And I think it's having that conversation of like, well, what is acceptable or what is something that you would like or something that you don't like. Like, again, I think it can fall culturally or just comfort level or like, I don't want
like
my
personality.
private life on the World Wide Web, you know? So that's another piece. And I think, again, our lives are all on social media. So it's a sense of like, having that conversation, you know?
Also, if someone's writing giant paragraphs about how much they love their partner, they're probably not doing that.
like every day. Just
be like, look what he did for me. Look what, oh my gosh, I love them so much. It's probably not actually like that. So when you see that, don't think like, well, my relationship's not doing that. That is a tactic of people in unhealthy relationships where they
trying to overcompensate.
They're trying to overcompensate and they're trying to show something that's not there. And people will literally do things like abusive people. I've talked with women who've gotten out of narcissistic relationships and their ex-husbands or ex-boyfriends would literally do things for them so they would post things.
Oh, gosh.
Because it would be like, they were pretty much trying to, you know, keep doing the act of like, look how amazing I am. So all the family and friends wouldn't think he was actually abusive to them.
Scary.
And so, but then because he would see the woman do it once. Oh my gosh, my husband got me flowers. This is so sweet. And then she would consistently do it because she would get the feedback from others of like, wow, your relationship's so amazing, and justify, I'm in a crappy relationship. And then he would be like, gaslighting her and abusing her, you know?
Crazy.
So just take things with a grain of salt always. I think sweet posts are great. I do them. But if it's a paragraph of all the amazing things he did for her in the last week, he bought me this, he got me this, he did this.
More like materialistic.
Materialistic,
not necessarily like
about the human being.
Who he is. buying things for you and stuff like that.
I just think take it for a grain of salt and don't compare your relationship to what you see on the internet, because the internet is fake. People Photoshop, people fake things, people over exaggerate things.
I mean, we're all selective of what we post on social media.
Sure. Yeah, you're going to post the highlight reel.
Yeah, I'm not going to post me being sad.
It's not going to be us like, Josh and I fought last night and he didn't do the dishes.
Do that.
Okay, that's another red flag though.
Like, we fought last night, but we worked through it so hard.
I also have a hot take on people who get married and then 2 months later they're like, marriage is the hardest thing I've ever done. He doesn't do this, he doesn't do that, but we love each other. And I'm like,
he didn't flush the toilet for the 10th time this week.
But he's my mess. And it's like,
oh gosh, he's my mess.
Yeah, like
I hate
people
that.
do that
gosh,
though.
I've never
and it's
heard
like,
it.
so on both ends of the spectrum, just take it with a grain of salt and don't get influenced by what people are doing. Because it's like you have to go back to your individual
circumstance
and circumstances and relationship and person and all the factors that play into that.
And all these tips are so, take them and see what your relationship is like, right? Look at it.
Just think about it different.
It gives you some insights on how to balance your life better, to have a better process, to be yourself in that process. And I think also too, just like remembering those joyful times that you can really, affirm your partner and give just encouragement, because yes, we know every stage of life is hard. Every relationship can be hard, whether it's family or a romantic relationship. Yeah. But I think at the end of the day, it's like, where's my comfort level? Where do I feel the most myself? The most,
kind of at peace.
Exactly.
I think a good quote is, life is hard. Your relationship shouldn't make it harder. Of like, life can be hard. People die. People lose jobs. People have injuries. People have health issues. Life itself is very hard. We are not promised an easy life. We have a hard life, right? The relationship can have hard moments, but at the end of the day, it should make it easier. It should lighten things. Because at the end of the day, when I have a hard day and life is hard and work is a lot or whatever, Josh doesn't make it harder. He makes it easier.
Yeah.
And I think when you think about your friendships and your relationships in that lens, generally that should be the case. Yeah. There's nuances. I get it. There is hard seasons. I've had them. But when you look at the whole scheme of life and you're thinking about how you feel about your partner or your life or your relationship, it should be on the positive side. And if it's not, evaluate that and be like, why do I feel this way? Yeah. That's how I feel. And I don't think everyone agrees with that. I would love to love a conversation about this. Comment on our Instagram or TikToks or whatever you're seeing, finding this. I'm not saying what I just said is like the truth necessarily. It's just from my perception, that is how I think things should be. And other people might disagree.
Yes.
Pick and choose, what applies to you best and
just
your
what get you thinking.
Yeah, your personality, your individual relationships with other people. Not everything from this applies to every single person.
Exactly.
Exactly. Well, ladies, thank you so much for this fun conversation.
Yeah.
These good tips. And I hope that our listeners, all of you that are listening, have enjoyed this conversation, can take it, applying it to your relationship or your stage in life. Hopefully that it was helpful for you. Yes. So please join us for our next episode next week. Thank you so much for joining us today, and stay tuned for some fun other topics. For more information about 3W, please visit our website at 3wmedical.org. That's the number 3, the letter W, medical.org. From there, you can learn more about the services we provide, book an appointment, or make a donation if you'd like to support our mission. You can also call our office at 206-588-0311. That's 206-588-0311. If you liked this episode, please share it with others and consider subscribing on your favorite podcast platform so you'll never miss an episode. Thank you so much for listening, and until next time, stay healthy and be well.